Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin Lore Podcast. Last week, we talked about the Abyss's best boy, Tartaglia, and B still hasn't forgiven us for forcing him to talk about him for so long.
Nope.
This week, we will be changing courses and discussing Stormterror, better known as Dvalin the Dragon. Additionally, I want to remind travelers to visit talesofteyvat.com to see visual representations of the lore mentioned during today's podcast. Your guides have put them together for you to make things a little easier to understand. Also, feel free to email us at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com to let us know what you think of this week's episode and what topics you'd like to see in the future. But let's take a rewind to basically the start of the game, back to when we first were in Mondstadt starting the Archon line.
All the way back over a year.
All the way
to
back.
the moment that changed, like, Genshin is bullshit, to the, oh my god, it's a dragon!
I like how it went from Genshin is bullshit to, oh my god, a dragon within like the first 15 minutes of the game for you, Al.
Look, the second you add a dragon in the mix of things, I'm all for it. Let's go.
I do have to say, like, when I was kind of reviewing everything to talk about Dvalin today, I was like, they really started us off with a whole ass dragon.
They did.
And I feel like no one talks about this, like, quest line as much. Like, everyone's like, oh, the finale of Liyue. Oh, the finale of Inazuma, Sumeru. I don't know if we've had technically a Sumeru finale, but, you know, what we have so far. I feel like while Mondstadt's ending wasn't as cinematic, it's really important.
Yeah.
But you know, I think like while it was happening and we were paying attention to it and starting to get all these things, we were learning so much of the mechanics of the game and all the different, like, there's a lot of history and a lot of nuances that you don't really even pick up on until you've played for a while. So it's almost like a little bit of a fog, I think, in some ways, because you do it so early and it's kind of hard to remember, I guess.
Definitely.
You also have the fact that the big battle we have is kind of disorienting at the end of that.
That battle. That I got so sick at the end of that battle.
Yeah,
The Star Fox battle.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember like a few people when they first started playing asked, are all the boss fights like this? And I was like, no, please, no. And they're like, oh, thank God. I don't know if I could have done that again.
Yeah, I was ready to like log out and give my login over to B and just be like, can you please just get me through this? Because I don't get car sick or anything like that, but the movement and stuff when we were like following him in the air just got me so sick. I had to actually take a break, and then dumb me went back to do it again. I didn't realize that there were levels because it was a domain you could do again.
Yeah.
So then as I was like AR12, I was trying, not AR12. AR12. I was trying to like do that at level 90. And I was it's like, I can't get through this. Like, I just don't know what I'm doing. And Brandon's like, what is your problem? Like, this isn't that hard. And I'm like, this isn't that hard?
Tiff's like about to crack her knuckles. Like, what do you mean this isn't hard? Right? I'll show you hard.
Well, then it was like, well, Venti's there and stuff. I'm like, Venti's not there. All of a sudden there was like silence, and it's like, you're doing it at level 1, right? I'm like, what? I was
You're
like,
doing the level 20 version, right?
You know, the intro one.
Yeah, I
Tiff
thought it was
wanted
just
to
showing me the parts
experience.
of the whole thing. I'm like, I don't want to go back and do the part that I was getting sick at. He's like, you ain't gonna. And then I finished it in like 5 minutes.
Tiff just decided to pull an Elden Ring and decide, you know what? I'm going to go from level 1 to fighting Melania right now.
Oh, it was so bad. I'm glad that I got past that because I was very close to quitting.
Oh, no.
And like Feeny was saying, I remember not really paying very close attention to the lore of the game until after Mondstadt, because I think it was really the Dainsleif quest lines that really grabbed my attention and made me start suddenly paying attention to, you know, more than just game mechanics and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely the like, oh shit, what have I been missing moment is when you get to Dainsleif.
Right.
So let's take a few steps back then, because I think going through, it'd be really helpful to go through the actual quest that includes Dvalin, because my mind is blown looking back at things with my little bullet points. So we leave the beach with Paimon to try to go find somewhere to go. And we run into Venti and Dvalin out of the corner of our eyes. And it's really sus.
Mm-hmm.
This little green guy talking to a giant blue dragon, like, you know.
In a diaper, no less. Literally first experience as a diaper boy.
Yeah, and it's
with a dragon.
And it's funny because that's like the first person we meet. I feel like so many people, myself included, are always like, Amber's the first person we met. No, we met Venti first.
So yeah, sort of. I mean, there wasn't a real introduction yet, but we see him first.
He gave
went
us such
poof.
a dirty look.
Yeah.
Yeah, we scared away the dragon.
Oh.
And then Venti did that cool like swirl thing. He was like, goodbye. And I was like, oh. Very like those like Hydro Abyss Mage people. I forget what they're called. The tall girls.
Oh.
Like with their water portal things.
The Mirror Maidens.
Yes, he does like almost like Mirror Maiden, but a swirl. It's like goodbye.
The tall girls.
The tall girls. You know the tall girls.
You know, tall girls.
The tall girls with the big old bitties.
And after we scare them both away, they have left behind a crystal, and it's called a crimson crystal. And we later find out that they also are called teardrops. So as we're talking about teardrops, we're interchanging them just to give everyone a heads up. But we kind of find it. We don't know what it is. We throw it in our pocket. And then Amber finally finds us. And we head back to Mondstadt.
Yeah, Outrider Amber finds us and is giving us the lay of the land, teaching us all about hilichurls and how dangerous they are, and then takes us into Mondstadt, where the city immediately gets attacked by Dvalin the dragon.
Before that, though, can I just bring up one thing that I found as I was like rewatching everything? Which, if anybody wants to rewatch this whole storyline, we will link it on the site as well. A YouTuber has the whole thing there. It's really great. But Paimon tells Amber that the traveler is looking for their sibling. And Amber just goes, oh, your family? And she just goes like, well, never mind. And I'm like, rewatching it, I'm like, does that bitch know? She knows.
And
she knows something's going on.
You think
There's
she
a
knows
lot
something?
of sussy stuff going on when you rewatch it. I swear, everybody's sus. Like, I swear they all know everything.
Well, you want to know? I'm going to play a little devil advocate. I think that Amber is more so getting upset because her grandfather is missing.
So it's all about her?
Yeah, I think like Amber.
Excuse me. You just randomly came to this world you have no idea about. Oh, your sibling's missing? My grandfather's missing.
Yeah, I think Amber's more so like
She's related.
feels the traveler, you know? She's like, oh my god.
It's like, you probably
too?
don't want to talk about this. Let's move on.
I like it that she's like, I'll help you put up some missing person flyers.
Yes.
She went all out
Will
with that, though.
help?
Let's not forget.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really did put them everywhere.
Put them
on the
rooftops.
top of all the buildings.
Who is seeing them up there? Like the Dark Knight hero? Like that's
Yeah.
it.
Actually, probably.
Put on a windmill. Who's going up there?
Every now and then
Anyone
Dylan just looks
service
at
the
it.
windmill.
Diona, I'm sure Diona goes up there to like perch and
Watch
you
the
know,
drunks.
And attack the boozers.
Being a little
throw things
gargoyle.
at the bar patrons.
Like, yeet shit.
Well, you know how
over the
cats like to
thing.
be high up on things.
Yeah, that's true. That's
The higher
true.
the better. Best way to fucking just throw rocks at these fucks.
So we go to Mondstadt with Amber, and as soon as we get into Mondstadt, the weather changes. It gets dark and stormy. It's very dramatic. And we have our first encounter with Stormterror, and we are swept up into a tornado. And thank God Amber just taught us how to use a wing glider.
Right.
How
Not gonna
convenient.
lie. I was very scared at that point because I think you three know, but audience, I'm very terrified of tornadoes. So it was kind of hell for me in that moment.
You were like, I'm scared of tornadoes, but I love dragons. What are these confusing, conflicting
Exact-
feelings?
The fear and love at the same moment.
And we basically became an expert at wind gliding in that
So quick.
first moment.
Such an MC move.
Do you think the Traveler canonically is good at wing gliding because they had wings originally?
That would make sense. Since
Yeah.
We're just good. We're just skilled, but they're
get good, everyone else. We're the OG.
But we're actually helped by Venti in the air. His mysterious voice comes through like our ears, just like a certain Dendro Archon that I know who has appeared just in our ears a few other times. I feel like there's a lot of connections between Venti and Lisa. I'm not. Anyway, Venti speaks to us and tells us that he's helping us glide, and we like attack Stormterror, scare him away. And when we come back down, Amber's like, "Hell yeah!" And then Kaya's like, "Clap, clap, clap! Great job! Come with me."
Here's my other sussy part. Right after that part, that's going to be my entire role. This whole episode is me pointing out where I think everybody's sus. So right before when Kaya says all that, and we're walking over to the Favonius headquarters, it cuts over to Jean and Lisa talking, and they basically like are getting antsy, and they're like, "Oh, but we said we would meet them here," and Lisa says, "Don't worry, I'll help out when I need to," and it's like they knew they were coming, but if Kaya just was out there and just wrangled up these people and brought them in, and they act like they don't know who they are or anything like that, I'm like, there's something up there.
See, I felt like with that Kaya, Jean, and Lisa had been together when they saw us fighting Stormterror, and that Jean and Lisa were like, "Go, our son, go get them. We need them. Run. We don't know who the hell they
son?
are." Yeah, like our son. Like, yeah, I don't know.
They've adopted Kaya because D-Luke said, "Fuck off."
Yeah, they're like, if he won't take him, we will.
Be off, child. Fetch us our traveler.
The lesbians coming in to save the day.
That was how I saw it, because Kaya knew that like something happened but didn't know who the Traveler was. And it felt like Lisa and Jean didn't know who the Traveler was, but also knew that like something happened. So
to me, they knew exactly who they were.
Oh, really?
Yeah. To me, they knew, and it was like they knew they needed this person to help them with Dvalin. Like they had some kind of inkling that this was going to pass, whether or not they knew as much as they think they knew. Like they may have just been slightly privy to something.
Yeah, or they just saw us fighting, and they might have assumed that we were getting like the Animal Archon's help too in the air.
You just don't want me to say that Lisa's sus.
Lisa's not sus. I mean,
she's sus. She's sus, but she's okay that she's sus. She's okay.
She's not sus in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, she's dying. Be nice to her.
That's why she's so fucking sus. What did she know?
For anybody, I don't know. Have we ever mentioned that Lisa's dying? So if anybody was like, "Hey, why is Lisa dying?" They did they came out with that. Was it over the summer? They said that.
It was like a while ago. I don't know the exact date, but there's an article out there. One of the developers actually did an interview. So it's never been stated in game, but in this interview, a developer said that Lisa is dying basically because she did something like touched a rare book looking for probably forbidden knowledge.
Divine knowledge.
Divine knowledge. And whatever happened took half of her lifespan away from her. And so now there's like a ton of theories about why Lisa is quote unquote lazy when she's really just trying to enjoy life.
She made a deal with the void, with the abyss for those big ol' biddies. And is just having a time of her life in these last few years.
She used to look completely different, like an actual nerdy librarian. And then she was like, "I will sell my soul to be hot."
I could see it. Oh my god, yes.
Now she's just like, "I'm gonna flirt with every living creature."
Yes. You know what? If I was living in this world, of course I would do the same fucking thing.
I mean,
Al, you would do the same thing right now.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't have to be dying or being Teyvat.
But there's no dragons here.
Not yet.
I'm obsessed with Lisa. I love how she calls people sweetie and cutie, and how she's just so gay. And there was this one part during this quest chain where she says, "Ugh, for a mage, it couldn't get much worse. My skin is one elemental particle away from a full-blown breakout."
Oh my god.
So dramatic.
So we get to Lisa and Jean, and Kaya introduces us, and we all kind of connect, and they're like, all right, we need your help, basically. And they kind of explain to us that there are 4 winds of Mondstadt. They don't go too into detail about it, and that these 4 winds are guardians of Mondstadt, and that they were friends with the Anemo Archon, and that basically that Dvalin is pulling elemental power from 3 out of those 4 temples.
But did they actually say that he was only pulling them out of 3? Because I feel like they said the energy is getting pulled out of the 4 winds temples, but we're only going to go to 3, and I'm sure you all know why. Nobody tells us why.
Yeah,
Right.
I think you're right, Tiff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they say that he's drawing power from the 4 winds temples, but our objective is to investigate 3 of the 4, and then
Because
later
they already have the one of them.
No, not yet, because Venti ends up with the 4th one.
Well, I think they
Oh.
try to explain it by saying, like, Lisa later says that Dvalin can only currently channel energy from 3 of the 4 temples because it has been consuming itself from the beginning. I found it
Yes.
a little confusing. I don't
No,
think
yeah,
it
you're
made
right.
a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they say it in this moment, but they say it later on. So we meet with Jean and Lisa, and they decide that we're going to help them with these 3 temples. We're going into these 3 temples, and we are like destroying the elemental source, like where Dvalin is getting these powers.
Right. And before we go into the temples, Lisa says something I thought was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
She says Mondstadt's elemental sphere and ley lines are now akin to a yarn ball in the paws of a kitten. The kitten, of course, being Stormterror.
Right.
But I don't remember. I mean, we've all heard of ley lines because it's sort of something that is in a few different fictional works.
Yeah.
But
It's very similar to like the ley lines of the world tree when it comes to Norse mythology for Yggdrasil.
so I was like, when they first start bringing up ley lines, I'm like, okay, this game has ley lines. We get it. But then one thing I didn't remember until going back to look at this quest chain was her saying Mondstadt's elemental sphere. And
Yeah.
I don't feel like they've talked about that with the other cities in the game. So I thought that was kind of strange.
Mhm.
Is there an actual sphere over each city in the game that is interacting with the ley lines? So that was very puzzling to me.
Yeah, and also, you bring up a really good point with the nations. So after we go through each of these temples, and there's some commentary in the temples, they're basically each trials for Amber, Kaya, and Lisa, where you learn how to use their elemental abilities, learn how to use them together. And we get some tidbits. That's where we really learn what the 4 winds are. We learn that Dvalin was a 4 wind. And again, a 4 wind is like a protector of Mondstadt. But when we return back to Mondstadt, we actually see Jean talking to Anastasia, who is a Fatui member in Mondstadt. And her and Jean are arguing over how to handle Stormterror because the Fatui feels that they could do it better. And they basically want to kill Stormterror. And Jean is like, we're not killing one of the 4 winds. Like, absolutely not. Are you crazy? And then we have a conversation with Jean. And I just felt it was very interesting because she gives us some more background on some of the nations, talking about how every nation has an archon, how the people of Stesnaya choose to follow the cryo archon. It was a weird way she said it. I might be phrasing it wrong, but she was like, yeah, they choose to follow her. Not like they follow her just like we follow the Anemo Archon. No, it's like they choose that. And she says that they're very coveted, like they really want the Anemo Archon's powers.
Ooh.
Which is interesting because Venti has like a voice line about the Sarissa where he basically admits that they used to be good friends and now they're not.
Yeah, and this is the introduction of them showing Snezhnaya as a nation trying to strong arm Mondstadt through its diplomats to take control of different world events and really, I think, try to become, the bigger world power of Teyvat. And, this asshole, Anastasia.
Yeah, literally.
Complete jerk. But yeah, what you said is right. They want to kill Dvalin, and Anastasia's basically saying, if Mondstadt can't handle it, you're going to have to let Snezhnaya take over and handle the situation. And Jean is like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
He gets pissed.
What the fuck is a Fatui member gonna do against a fucking dragon?
I don't know. Maybe they're going to bring a Harbinger over, They do mention the Harbingers at one point, too. They're like, there were 11 Harbingers and they're in control. And I was like, wait, I knew all of this that far, like that long ago? Like, I thought...
I know.
There was another thing they say about Snezhnaya in the Archon quest I can't remember now, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, we knew about that so long. Oh, it was the Goth Motel. We actually look at the Goth Hotel for something. And they're like, oh, it's not at the Goth Hotel. And I was like, oh, wait, we knew the Fatui were staying at the Goth Hotel before Kaya was delivering them food there? In like that random event with Kichibushi? Are you kidding me? I had no idea. So it was interesting because a lot of these things, you know, going back and going through this storyline and learning more about Dvalin, I feel like you're connecting pieces where we were doing events more recently going, this is such a random piece of knowledge. Why didn't they ever mention this before? And I'm like, oh God, they did.
Right. But none of us remember any of it. Because like Tiff was saying before, you know, we're all still trying to like understand how to play the game, and there's all these menus, and I wasn't paying that close attention to, you know, the different characters in the lore. I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll deal with it when I get to the boss.
So after we do have this run-in, Jean takes us back to the Knights of Favonia's headquarters, where we meet up with Lisa and her again. And we actually tell them that, you know, that we did all the domains, that we fought in there, we helped with the elemental power. Lisa says that she's already feeling better. And then we show her the crimson crystal out of our bag. And Lisa says that it's really tainted, that she's not sure how to fix it. She's going to have to go into the restricted area of the library to learn more about it. And they ask us to hold on to it for now because people with visions are having strange reactions to the crystal where they're in a lot of pain if they get too
it's
close.
Painful. Lisa's like, ouch, cutie.
Yeah, literally out of nowhere. And meanwhile, Jean is like, Lisa, calm down. It's not that bad. So we take the crystal, we go back outside, and that's when we're talking with Paimon about Venti, or the green guy, I think is what we call him.
Yes.
And as we're talking with Paimon about how we need to possibly try to figure out how to find him, we actually see him running past us. And we follow him, and he's actually playing a song in front of the Venti statue. And he plays us the song that kind of sets up the scene for what exactly happened to Dvalin.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little cutscene. I love when they do those types of animations and stuff. We see it multiple times when they're kind of telling us a backstory, and we always see it with the battle pass and things like that. It's beautifully done. It's so different from the rest of the game, but I think it's just a nice piece all the time.
Yeah, and it's our first one.
Yeah, it's our first one, and he goes through, he doesn't specifically say at this point that it's him, but you know it's him. And he tells us this story about Dvalin and Durin and the fight that they got into, and that Durin wounded Dvalin, and then Dvalin goes and takes a nap.
Takes a nap.
He goes to take a nap. He's like, I'm hurt. I'm going to go sit down.
I mean, I had to take a nap after wrapping Christmas presents, so I feel him on a different level.
Yeah, and we'll jump a little more into detail with that in a few minutes, but basically we find out that Dvalin and Venti both fought a fight together, and that they both became poisoned. And Venti, the only way he could heal was to basically sleep for God knows how long. And that Dvalin was really just kind of left out there on his own. And that now the poison has really seeped into him.
Right. I believe Dvalin crawled into some kind of ruin to rest. And then however it happened, Dvalin and Venti were separated at the end of this battle. And they each have to go rest from the fight. And then later on, they're not able to find each other.
Right. So Venti finishes playing his song, and we actually approach him and start talking with him. And he's being really suspicious, talking in rhymes and not really giving us straight answers. He says that all this talk has him thinking about old friends, and that he's going to run to the place where Mondstadt's hero is. And he runs away, and we have to figure out where the hell he's going. And we follow him out to Windrise. And this is where we find out that when we ran into Venti and Dvalin earlier, Venti was actually trying to speak with Dvalin and help him, and that our interruption led to Venti getting hurt. I believe he's like re-poisoned, basically.
Yeah, he uses the word poison.
And so Venti has gone to the tree of Vanessa to get healed, which, Tiff, you've had a few theories about that in like past episodes too.
Yeah, it's actually the only place where Venti can ever heal with anything, is he always has to go back to Vanessa's tree. Well, I think we we were talking about it in the aristocracy and stuff like that during that episode. He has some connection to that tree and with Vanessa that gets him kind of healed up.
For our travelers who might not know, Vanessa is the original Dandelion Knight, the original founder of the Knights of Favonius. She saved Mondstadt from the Lawrence clan's aristocracy. We did a whole episode on it a few weeks ago, so we're not going to dive too deep into it. You can always check that out if you need some clarification. But Vanessa and Venti were actually good friends. We don't know what happened and if they remained good friends, but they were good friends at some point. And while we're there, we find out that Venti hasn't really been around for a while, but he's again not talking about himself. He's talking about Barbados. He's the Anima Archon hasn't been around.
Yeah, and he kind of goes into how the different archons rule their lands type of thing, and how Barbados isn't in everybody's lives every day.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, why are you asking all these questions about Barbados? Just playing so dumb.
Yeah, right? And then they get attacked by an Eye of the Storm out of nowhere. And he says that a lot of the elemental stuff in Mondstadt is off ever since he got back. Which, Brandon, goes back to what you said earlier about the elemental sphere of Mondstadt.
Yeah.
What is it?
So we just know that whatever's going on with Dvalin is somehow disrupting it, which is causing all these storms and everything. Even when Stormterror is not actively attacking, it's creating these crazy storms surrounding Mondstadt. And yeah, what is it? Why? I mean, I guess this power was just sort of hanging around these Four Winds temples for all these years. I guess Dvalin was just recently inspired by these lies that were being told to him to draw on that power in order to attack Mondstadt.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through we go through 3 of the Four Winds temples, sort of disrupting this power, which helps calm down the storms and everything. But then we're still left with this crimson tear crystal and what's going on with that. And that's when we find out that the Traveler is somehow able to purify the crimson crystals.
Yeah, right after we beat the Eye of the Storm, we bring out the crystal to show Venti, and it's already purified. And the Traveler and Paimon are like, this wasn't purified 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And that's when Venti explains to us that that's a teardrop of Dvalin's, and that it just shows how much pain that Dvalin is in.
Yeah, that he's filled with anguish.
The black blood flowing through his heart is torturing him.
Yeah.
And it's oh.
Poor baby.
Poor baby.
So sad. Yeah, poor Dvalin. And how long has Dvalin been awake with this pain? Ever since he started attacking Mondstadt, I guess? So yeah, we're almost to the end of the Dvalin storyline. We go back with Venti to the church at this point. We've decided that we're gonna steal the Holy Lyre.
Right, which was originally used to inspire and soothe Dvalin when he was first born and came down into the world and was freaking everyone out. Because they were like, oh my God, it's a dragon. But, Venti, as Barbados, was basically the only person who wasn't afraid of Dvalin and soothed him by playing this Holy Lyre, which, over the years while Venti was slumbering or screwing off somewhere, somehow ended up in the basement of the Mondstadt Cathedral.
Yeah.
The best is how he tried to get the lyre. His big plan is he's just going to go ask for it. Holy relic,
Right.
Just gonna go ask. Maybe they'll just give it to me.
And when they don't give it to him right away, he's like, but I'm Barbados. And they're like, and I'm Morax.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, okay, bye-bye.
Politeness
Bye-bye.
doesn't get you anywhere in this world.
No, absolutely not. And after we fail, Venti decides that we are going to steal the Holy Lyre. We succeed in stealing the Holy Lyre only to have an electro bitch steal it from us.
After our whole Mission Impossible, we actually are able to escape the cathedral with the lyre only to have it stolen by the Fatui.
I'm so mad. I was so pissed at that point. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
So then we all run away because people are trying to capture us because we literally got caught because of this distraction of having the thing stolen. And we run into D-Luke's tavern, Angel Share. Now, D-Luke is already aware that something weird is going on in Mondstadt at this point because he actually showed up in the domain we did with Kaya, but not until after we left. So Traveler isn't aware, but player is aware. D-Luke is suspicious of what we're doing. He clears out the bar and talks with us, eventually realizes what's going on, and he actually calls Jean over as well. And the four of us plus Paimon have a huge powwow in Angel Share. It's where the famous heh heh from Paimon comes from, and the famous wow, this is awkward from Paimon also comes from.
I miss sassy Paimon. Bring that Paimon back.
Well, you know, my theory is that Paimon is the time god, and that is why she is so sassy with Venti, because the time god and Venti were friends in my head. But anyway, distractions aside, D-Luke agrees to help us. And amongst this all, I'm probably going to get some of it wrong, but I'm going to try to just get as much in as I can. D-Luke and Jean use their resources to try to find out where the Holy Lyre is. That's when we find out that it's not at the Goth Hotel. And we find out that they're hiding it in like a domain or something instead.
I remember thinking, like, why was this hotel so goth?
Same.
And do we get to go there soon?
Only if.
Preferably with Fischl.
Oh my god.
No!
I want to have drinks with Fischl at the Goth Hotel.
No.
That would be so cute.
That would end in absolute chaos, and I need it now.
Like absinthe or something that has smoke or whatnot.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
sitting there
Really
like,
absinthe?
Definitely
Oh my
absinthe.
god.
So after doing this new domain,
she's like, all right, done with you.
done with it, no abstinence. After doing the domain, we get the Holy Lyre back, but now we realize that this Holy Lyre is broke, and we tell, like, that's where we're in Angel Share. We're like, yeah, Holy Lyre is broke. And that's when Paimon's like, what are you just gonna play this because you're a tone deaf bard? Because no one is she hasn't realized, at least, that he's not just a bard, that he's Barbados.
Right.
And that's when Venti tells us that the crystals / teardrops that we've been finding, when purified, can actually help the lyre gain back its animo elemental powers, and that we can then use the lyre again. So we do more domains where we go and get more crystals, and we all come back together, and we decide that we're going to go to Star Snatch Cliff. So we go to Star Snatch, and Venti starts to play a little tune to get Dvalin's help, and him and Dvalin have some like mean discourse. It's like, ugh, you suck. No, you suck. You left me alone. No, I didn't. You're a jerk. You're a jerk. And then an Abyss Mage comes out and it's like, I'm in control of the dragon.
With the funniest voice ever.
Oh my god.
I now control the dragon.
And
That's good.
The Abyss Mage like shoots an ice thing at Venti, hurts Venti, and also knocks the lyre out of his hands and breaks the really valuable thing. And Dvalin and the Abyss Mage get away.
Yeah, and as they're talking, though, after that whole part, they start, they're getting a little concerned about what's going on. And Jean goes to talk to Venti, and she starts to go, Venti.
Right.
She totally lets it out that she knows that he is Barbados. And he's just like, oh, well, thanks for hiding that. I see you know. But it's like one of those little tiny little snippets in there.
How
Totally
do you think
glossed over.
Jean found out?
I don't know.
Did Varka know?
I think Jean is just big brain.
We find out, I think, when we're back, if you go back to when we were in the cathedral and we try and use our sly moves of saying, hey, I'm the Animo Archon, give me my damn lyre. We're kind of like outside going, hey, you're the Animo Archon, aren't you? Like, you weren't lying there. So
Right.
like we know. Paimon's not 100% with us on this, but like we know and have kind of let him know that we understand that he is. And I don't know if Jean, like, did Jean know before because she's the acting grandmaster? Is that like one of the things that you find out when you have to take care of the city and she's just hiding it well? Or
Right.
is it during this whole quest, like we just happen to figure it out? Did she just figure it out?
Right. Does she just have common sense, or did someone actually tell her?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's more of like a common sense thing, but because Venti openly admits that like he hasn't really been awake for that long. Not many people know. So it's not something that acting grandmasters and grandmasters have been passing down for generations, you know? Like it's not like they're like the green bard is the Barbatos as they die. Like,
But what if it is like a family secret?
but they're not family, the grandmasters.
No, I mean in Jean's family.
Oh,
Because she's descended from a bunch of Dandelion Knights, right?
they're just like, look, if you see someone in a diaper, that more than likely is Barbados. So,
But then Barbara would know.
Well,
no, because she was raised by her dad.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't
Right.
know. I feel like family secrets get told to family. And if the mom is in contact with her and knows that she's a priestess too.
Not with how Frederica is very much like only Jean is a Gunhilder while Barbara is a peg.
Yeah, and I think also because Jean was the Dandelion Knight. Like she knew she was special. I could see that happening.
My personal opinion is that Jean has a sixth sense because of her connection with Vanessa.
Mm.
That's my personal theory. I know
Vanessa's whisper in her ear, hey, that guy's an archon.
because I know that like a few people in the past, one of you guys mentioned something about like a reincarnation theory with Vanessa and Jean. That's if Vanessa's dead because we don't know. So like I think too is like I think it would be more so like, you know, being a Dandelion Knight and having that connection to Vanessa and the fact that Jean is always also going to Windrise like Venti is and stuff like that. That weird connection kind of clips them together as well. But who knows? Jean
Or
figured it
maybe
out.
she just remembers because we're all stuck in a time loop.
Oh God,
Maybe.
no! No time loop.
Let's do the time warp again.
But at this point, we decide that we come up with a plan that we're gonna go to Stormterror's lair
Mhm.
and confront Dvalin. But before that happens, there's a little mini cutscene that I totally forgot existed. And it shows our sibling. We see our
Mm.
sibling standing there, and the mages go up to them and they say, "When your homeland returns to this world, we shall revel in its glory." I play as Lumine, but watching the story back, I was watching it as Aether, and they call Lumine Your Highness. And that's all it is. We look out very pensively, like we were watching the whole thing. But that's actually the first time that we get that kind of glimpse. Like Brandon was saying earlier, it's the Dainsleif quest that really brought a lot of that out. And that was the first time I thought we ever had something like that. So it was interesting to see that it was actually in there. Like you said too, Fiends, it was like, wait, I knew that this happened. Like I knew that our sibling was involved with the mages in some way.
Mm-hmm. So
Totally
then
forgot.
we take Diluc and Jean and Venti with us to go fight Dvalin in Stormterror's lair, which is located in Old Mondstadt.
Fun fact, it's Decarabians.
Ooh.
It's Decarabians Tower. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Thought that was cool too. Just a little thing that you're picking up all the time. That's what it is. It's from there.
You're taking pieces of that tower
Yeah.
constantly.
Why it's so broken?
Why is your tower so raggedy?
Because I had to level up my goddamn wolf's gravestone. It's important.
And then we defeat Dvalin, but the whole place starts to fall apart around us. And as it falls apart, we kind of black out, but we black out as Venti. It really hones us into Venti's perspective. And when we wake up, we are all on Dvalin's back.
Yes, it's the never-ending story moment
Mm-hmm.
where Falcor's flying us to safety.
And Dvalin and Venti have some interesting discourse where Dvalin is like, why didn't you ask me to save you like you did last time? Which I thought was really sad. And Venti is like, because your freedom would not be freedom if I was telling you what to do. Like, you shouldn't feel like you have to answer to me.
Bodily autonomy, man.
Yeah, and
I want it.
this kind of ends our Dvalin quest line. Somewhere in there, too, we find out things about Venti, that, like, Venti openly admits, quote-unquote, that he's, like, the weakest archon currently because he's not openly managing Mondstadt as much as the other gods manage their nations. So
And
he's...
Paimon's like, that's because you're lazy.
Yeah.
Like she literally says, maybe it's just not that they're better. You're just lazy.
Yeah.
Even though, in fairness, Morax is about to give up, and A is like in the plane of euthymia and just has a puppet doing her job.
Being a fucking god is hard, my guys.
Yeah.
And he does locked up in the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Baby.
So maybe Barbados is the only like
He's like
capable
the
god.
most involved almost.
We know that makes me question a lot about Venti too, because if we take I don't want to sidetrack too much to Venti, but Venti says that he's only the weakest because he's not leading his nation in the way that the others are. So let's remember that Venti could be leading the nation and could be much powerful than he currently is. And that Venti lends his animal powers to 4 separate wind sources as protectors of Mondstadt. He has that much power as the weakest archon to still be giving the 4 winds their powers.
Well, isn't he also known as the 1,000 Winds?
Yeah.
So he's only given out 4. I mean, that's
Hey, Venti, can I have some, please?
I know you gave us
How
some
about
too.
the Southwest, Southeast? I'll take it.
he still has 996.
I'll be a
He's
polar
fine.
vortex.
You know, it was so funny. I saw a TikTok and I sent it to Tiff. We'll have to link it in the lore sheet. And it was saying, like, at the very end of the Mondstadt Archon, Venti is like, the winds will always protect you. And it was showing how in Liyue, Zhao saves us, Animo. In Inazuma, Kazuha saves us, Animo. And then there is some Animo savioring in Sumeru as well. So,
Savior.
I mean,
I'm so...
oh no, Al Hatham is Dendro, right?
right.
Yes.
Wait, so who's the Animo savior of Sumeru? Wanderer?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't he just kind of save us from himself?
Yeah, but that's like, he still gets saved. He still saves us.
I mean,
Anyway.
we could technically, if we're using Animo as the traveler at that moment, we are the Animo savior of Skara. Anyway.
So that's really all that we get about Dvalin in game, playable stuff that all of us had completely forgotten. But there's a lot of other stuff that we learned during the process of the game by reading some of the weapon lore, the artifact lore, and through some other means. So where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with Durin?
Yes. That's a very important part.
Go ahead.
Especially 'cause we did bring up Durin too in the Dragon Spine episode, so I think it's a great little tangent to go off on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
Wait. Can we just do how he was born?
Yeah.
So, like, where do dragons even come from?
Right? That's a really big question because we know that
They come from eggs, obviously.
we know that one of the 3 realms of Teyvat is the light or elemental realm, right? Which used to be ruled by the 7 sovereigns or dragons, and that whoever created the human realm, somehow defeated the 7 sovereigns. So that to me, it seems like dragons are these elemental beings, which makes a lot of sense when you think of the fact that Dvalin's tears, once they were purified, could restore the Holy Lyre's animo power. And we know that from this 2-volume book collection called Breeze Amidst the Forest, which contains a bunch of narrative poems that were compiled by scholars and sort of studied and laid out, that the dragon, graced by animo, was born in the high heavens in the age of wonders. He slowly descended, interesting word choice, by the way, if you have finished Sumeru, and inspected everything with curious eyes. So he was born in the high heavens, it says, like through elemental power that somehow came together, and then he came down into the world of Teyvat, and that's when everyone freaked out because I guess it had been so long since there had been 7 sovereign dragons. Or, there are a few other dragons like Ursa the Drake, but we don't really know what happened to the other dragons.
Oh, I have a theory. A very quick theory, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Primordial One probably put them in the hypostasis.
Oh.
And it's all based on, like, Dvalin has a very specific dragon roar, and you hear the same roar when you kill the hypostasis.
Oh, yeah, I love that theory.
It's a possibility because the 7 sovereigns are of the 7 elements. And now we have all 7 hypostasises as of now.
And that makes sense because if they're beings made of pure elemental energy, they could have been like dispersed or something, and that the hypostases are
Hypostasis.
that energy trying to like like coalesce back into itself. So
Mhm.
I really like that theory.
We could always go more in depth, but let's leave that for another day.
So are we assuming that when Dvalin was born that Venti was already like the animal archon?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanna make
Dvalin
sure.
is only 2,000 years old.
No, he's a baby.
He's technically a baby.
Well, if he's 2,000 years old, Venti's younger than him. Isn't Venti only like 1,600 or something like that?
No, he's like a smidge younger than Zhongli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it says somewhere that Dvalin and Venti have been friends for 2,000 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's 2,600 years old. I left off 1,000.
Oh,
At that age, so you stop counting.
yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
a lot of candles.
Yeah, but basically, the first person, or I guess being Dvalin ever meets, is Venti. So
Mhm.
it makes sense that they're best buds.
Yeah, because everybody else is running away from him.
Right.
Because they're like, dragon.
What is that? A dragon? Run! It's like, no, be my friend.
And it's so sad because he had such a curious personality and was very hurt by the world hating and fearing him.
Like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I was just born. I have butterfly wings. Why? He's so cute. If you can't tell, I love dragons.
Okay, so we got Venti coming to Dvalin as a little baby. He's like, calm down, it's okay, listen to my lyre. What about this whole Durin fight that we've talked about? We kind of like alluded to it earlier.
It seems like there's very little about Dvalin after he was born up until this whole, cataclysm happens. And that's around the same time that Durin appears.
I think that's the exact reason why Venti is not at the cataclysm. Unlike a few of the other archons who witnessed it, had firsthand experience. He was busy with Dvalin fighting Durin, and Durin, being the creation of gold, in truth, Durin just wanted to have a friend.
I know, but Durin was corrupted.
Yeah, he's corrupted. So they battling, they do, dragon fights, amazing. It's either Dvalin is bitten by Durin or drinks accidentally some of Durin's blood.
How do you accidentally drink someone's blood, Al?
It's called biting them too hard.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and he tore that book that I mentioned. It actually mentions that he tore open Durin's throat at the cost of ingesting its poisonous blood.
Which makes sense because Durin was a venomous dragon or poisonous. I think the translation goes hand in hand with how they're presenting it because, to be envenomated, you need to be bitten, but to be poisoned, you got to eat them. So maybe he's just caustic enough that, okay, anyway.
And just for our travelers who maybe need a quick refresh, we talked a little bit about Durin during our Dragonspine episode, but Durin is a dragon that was created through alchemy by Gold, or Reinendor, who is closely associated with Conria, but not confirmed if they're from Conria, if they were at the cataclysm. A lot of mystery around Gold. And Gold kind of set Durin out, was like, be free from Conria, my child, and freed Durin, and Durin wanted to go make friends with Dvalin, but because they were being controlled by Gold, they were therefore being corrupted by Gold as well, and Durin, so many D's, ends up being corrupted as well by Gold, and whatever Gold's corruption is.
Right. The book says the alchemist known as Gold was corrupted by their own greed and ambition and created an army of shadowy monsters with their uncanny powers.
And a really cute son.
And Albedo.
And Albedo, Amanda's boyfriend. Perfect.
And it says, I also wanted to mention that Durin's blood that poisons Dvalin in this book says that the blood of the wicked dragon was distorted gold with the powers to crumble mountains and poison the earth. So
bathe in his blood.
Yeah.
Bathe in his blood.
Distorted gold. That can't be like a coincidence. I don't know, maybe that's a weird translation thing, but It's awfully specific to say that the blood of Durin was made of distorted gold when the person that created Durin was named Gold.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because when we get into gold and we get into albedo, alchemy, like the reason alchemy, at least in our world, was used was to try and turn other things into gold. So like lead into gold, mercury into gold, and like stuff like that, trying to find a way to distort atoms to make another element. And so if you think that if alchemy is so connected between gold and albedo and everything gold has made, maybe the fact that an unstable element of transfused gold is going to be in his system kind of makes sense in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What else do like these sword and artifacts in these books say about like Dvalin?
Yeah, the Skyward Weapon series, they're weapons that were blessed by Venti and dedicated to Dvalin. And this series actually confirms that, and this is so sad, that after this fight with Durin, Dvalin retreated to a ruin and went to sleep for many years. And that Venti, I'm assuming he was asleep for a little bit, but he actually ended up, waking up and going to look for Dvalin and couldn't find him for years. And it was during this time that the Abyss Order got their claws sunk into Dvalin and were, quote unquote, whispering lies to him to basically take advantage of the poison that was already in his blood,
right,
and appeal to like that kind of toxic hatred that was in him chemically. And they convinced him that Mondstadt was his enemy.
So sad.
But I really love the fact that Venti was searching for him, because some of the lore made it sound like Venti would just sort of effed off and was like, whatever, we beat Durin, well, see you later, Dvalin. But no, he was actually searching for him and just couldn't find him.
It was his buddy.
It's really sad because I feel like a lot of people like to characterize Venti as like an aloof person that cares for nothing but alcohol and apples. And well, they have a bit of a point for most of the part. He is a very empathetic, kind person. He's very caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say like the way he treats the Traveler, whether it be in game or even in teapot lines, the way that he talks about Vanessa, despite the fact that we've even had assumptions that maybe him and Vanessa had a fight, he's still very kind to her. He likes Borax. He likes to play pranks on him. He even doesn't really talk bad about the Shogun either. He respects his fellow Archons, even if they've done dumb shit, which could be a flaw. I don't know. I just don't like how everyone makes Venti out to be like not a cool person. But he really is. And he seems to care a lot about Dvalin.
Yeah.
Almost like
definitely.
Dvalin's his son. They all have their kids, these Archons. This is
Venti just
Venti's.
steals Zhongli's kids all the time.
Oh, he steals everyone's kids.
All the babies. Like, you know what? You have a child? Mine now. Very Peter Pan of him.
Yeah, Venti shares custody with Nahida over the Wanderer, but...
Well, he also shares custody of Zhao with Zhongli.
That's true. He has a lot of co-parenting.
Is this why he hates the Pyro Archon? Because he hasn't gotten any of the Pyro Archon's children yet?
Oh my god, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out soon, I guess.
Hopefully,
right?
yes!
And we're gonna meet so many more orphans.
Yay!
So many more.
Orphans.
Fins.
I hope there's some more eye patches.
Oh, there
Oh,
better
yes.
fucking be. If there ain't, how can I have... We only have so many eye patches. We need one more to have the quad squad.
The quad squad. Well, don't worry. We don't have all of our Sumeru characters yet.
True.
We'll get an eye patch out of one of them. Well, we have an eye patch basically from every nation, right? Oh, no. We have 2 eye patches in Mondstadt. None in Inazuma.
Yeah. Which is a shame.
I'll just give someone an eye patch in Inazuma.
Like nobody got shot in the eye with like some electro.
Right.
Those crazy lightning bolts.
Right.
Goru could have used that. There'd be more to Goru at that point.
Or, like there was a whole like rebellion going on over there. No one had an eye patch. Nobody.
Maybe Tomo did, and we just never saw it.
Oh, so
Every time, Brandon.
always bringing up the dead people.
So,
Break our hearts again. Damn.
ever since we saw Dvalin last, we haven't seen Dvalin again in the storyline. He has not appeared in game again, right?
Well, he was in the summer event.
Yeah,
Oh,
The first summer
one.
event. Yeah, he actually pulled a Falcor again and flew everyone to
summer
the Golden
ice.
Apple Bottom Archipelago. So
Apple bottom archaeological. Yep.
You mean the archipelago?
Archipelago.
So, we saw Dvalin once since the initial storyline with him. Do you guys think we're going to see him again?
I hope so.
When Albedo destroys Mondstadt.
Oh no, stop it.
you know what
Stop.
I would really love is if they did like some kind of event that is all flashback and we actually got to go back and see that fight.
Oh,
Ooh.
I bet that'll happen maybe in the anime that's coming out too.
That makes
Oh
sense.
yeah.
The anime, though, now that I think of it, is supposed to be mostly based on the Archon War, I think. So maybe not.
It might
Well,
be too
he
early.
could be somewhat, maybe. Like, we don't know.
He's just vibing in it, but we won't see
Yeah.
the Durin fight.
Well, because there's a thing about him. Like, a theory is that he is one of the 7 sovereigns because they're all the elemental dragons, and that they ruled everything before the primordial one.
Mhm.
And then primordial one, like, if they don't like submit to him, he threw them in the ocean. Is that like Asile? Isn't Asile?
Oh.
He was in the ocean.
Well, I mean, I love the theory that he could be the Animo sovereign, and that
Yeah.
maybe he got like banished or something back during the primordial one's attack, and that maybe just years and years and years later he was reborn.
yeah.
Like maybe Dvalin doesn't even know that's what he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's also
I
a theory
like
that
that.
Azdaha is the Geo one.
The Geo one, yeah.
Hmm.
I
Which
like
makes sense.
this theory.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
definitely, they make sense.
Hmm.
I gotta say, though, I hope that we see Dvalin again when, you guys probably hate me by now, I say the same thing all the time, but I really think that the end of the game is coming back to Mondstadt, and I really hope that we get to see Dvalin at that point. And I hope that he's like fighting for Venti, and that Venti is like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to follow me. And he's like, I want to. And we're like, yeah.
I think he will, because when you think back, it's like he's kind of iconic, just image wise, when it comes to this game, because isn't he on the actual main
Yes.
loading screen picture?
Yes, he is.
So everyone is familiar with Dvalin, and I definitely think, I mean, if they're smart, they will do that, because think about like all the things that we forgot just going back through this stuff.
Mhm.
I think there could be like a really cool emotional payoff for the player to revisit him in some way later on.
Yeah.
Now that we're so familiar with the lore and everything as you go through the game. And also, crossover alert, Dvalin makes an appearance in Honkai Impact.
What?
Yes, it do, and it's absolutely confirmed. It's not something that looks like Dvalin. It is Dvalin.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I mean, at least I will talk more about that in episode
Me and
20.
Bees are gonna hijack this podcast.
We have
in
some wild
2023.
theories.
Oh my god, y'all ready to get cracked?
I'm
Yeah.
scared.
I
You
am
should
too.
be. You really should be. Actually, it's insane.
I feel like after I read some things recently, I feel like I had like a Genshin,
Epiphany.
well, more like a Genshin existential crisis.
Oh shit! Oh my god.
Well, I think before we get into some existential crises here, I'm going to end the episode.
No, I have one
Oh,
more
yeah, go
thing
ahead,
that I
Tim.
want to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead, too.
Because language and wording and everything like that is always so important. Al may have mentioned it that the name Dvalin is, I mean, I want to say like in Norse mythology, there's like an extra N, but it means the slumbering one.
It does.
Which-
And there's a particular story in, I think is it the Prose Edda? One of the Eddas or sagas where there are 2 dwarves who are forced to make a sword, and their names are Durin and Dvalin.
Yep. Mhm.
And that sword, I think, is cursed basically to always hit its mark, but every time you wield it, you have to kill somebody. So it's very like a double-edged sword. It's very oof.
Wow.
And Tolkien is apparently, it said that he took the name Durin, not only from the Norse mythology, obviously not from Genshin, but from Norse mythology, and named the king of the dwarves in the Lord of the Rings, Durin.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything Tolkien does is straight from Norse mythology.
It's so awesome.
It's great.
And then on a fun side, Kichibushi calls him Storm.
Storm. It's like Moon.
Yeah. And he was his name only went to Stormterror because he was a terror in the storms.
Yeah.
That's how he got to be known that. But yeah.
Poison Dvalin is Stormterror. But when he's not poison, he's sweet baby Dvalin.
He's also got a couple other names like the Howling Hurricane of Mondstadt.
That's what they called me in college.
Oh, wow.
The Tyrant of the Skies and the erstwhile King of the Skies. A lot of people talking about him, but Kichibushi got it right. Storm.
Dvalin, I don't know how Dvalin slept for that long when his nose was probably itching nonstop from all those people talking about
him. You can itch your nose in your sleep.
I would wake up.
I appreciate that he has as many names as the archons in this.
Yes. It makes sense because like he is somewhat, he's not exactly a god, but he's on the level of a god.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if he is one of the seven sovereigns, he is. I mean,
he is a god. Yeah.
Yeah. He ruled Teyvat.
He's basically like the original animal archon. Venti should be like bowing down to him.
I just want more fucking dragons in this game. I want to ride more dragons.
We know you do, Al.
I think our episode has to come to a close now. I want to thank our travelers today for talking about Dvalin and going back to the beginning of the game. I hope you guys had as many oh shit moments as we did. Next week, we're going to be talking about Sumeru so far. Don't forget, you can also follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or Twitter, Tales of Teyvat, to keep up to date on everything happening in the game, everything happening on the podcast, and to find some more like behind the scenes content as well, such as links to our lore sheets that we post on our website, and also some artist spotlights that we've been doing too, because there are so many super talented artists in the community. If you haven't checked it out on talesofteyvat.com, every episode has a artist going forward. So there's always an artist being spotlighted. We have their permission to cross-post them. They are all amazing, friendly people. We really want to make sure you guys are supporting them as well. Otherwise, safe journeys, travelers. We'll see you next time.
Bye, scaly nerds.